Hey, so just a quick update after my part of Jade's assessment last night. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd already filled in all the kind of like forms and that kind of thing around his development, but it was an hour and a half on Zoom, so it was quite intense. There was quite a lot to it. I had watched, there was a video that I posted on the page, on my Facebook page yesterday, which was the criteria that you have to meet to get an autism diagnosis. And there was one thing that I'd never kind of come across. I knew obviously with his paediatrician, she'd always pushed it back because she wanted to make sure that it wasn't just delays as such, or like something that he could grow out of or anything like that. But I'd never heard of them making sure that there's no trauma and that kind of thing. So I wasn't quite expecting, like, it was kind of straight in to the questions. And the first questions were around who lives in the household. So of course straight away, as soon as I do, I'm sure in terms of there being no discrimination, they must have to ask these questions to everybody. But obviously, as soon as you say dad doesn't live at home, you get all the what's there any domestic violence? Has he been through any kind of abuse? All of those kind of things, because I suppose they have to check that his behaviours and that kind of thing aren't trauma related, PTSD related, anything like that. But I wasn't really expecting those kind of questions. And then we went straight all the way back to whether it was a planned pregnancy. So obviously the fact that it was IVF, the issues with his placenta from 28 weeks, like all the way through birth story, planned C-section, no like obviously issues there. Then slight stay in the queue, all the way through to kind of his behaviours now. So yeah, it was. And then at the end of it, she said, like, is there anything else that you think I haven't covered? But I think because my answers were pretty, it's hard to stay on, she'd ask one very specific question and it's hard to stick specifically to that. I do tend to kind of go into like a bigger backstory on things anyway, but I was like, no, I think we covered pretty much everything we possibly could. And I feel obviously a lot more confident now, ready for Saturday when Jade has his assessment in Coventry. She seems really nice, the lady, and I've got no doubt, I'm sure that even just from yesterday, there's more than enough evidence. So yeah, it is still a little bit, I don't know. And then Jade said this morning, because obviously they were here, don't really think that's through. When I was in my room doing the call, and he did say this morning, he was like, I could hear you on the phone, and I was like, oh, still, what was I saying? And he said, you said I get angry, and I was like, yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, so obviously we'll go and see her on Saturday and go through all the rest of Jade's side of the assessment. But in terms of, yesterday was a bit of a chaos day anyway. When Jade came out of school, he was just sky high. So on the way home, I mean, it's only literally a 5-minute walk, but we got across the main road just about, and then by the time we were in our own estate, he broke free from my hand and ran into the road on 5 occasions. I mean, when I say road, it's cul-de-sacs, it's very quiet, but still, like, because it's very quiet, if there is one car, obviously they can go quite quick. So yeah, he was in big trouble when he got home. So this morning he's agreed to walk on his harness. So for the next couple of weeks, I think at least, he'll be back on his harness just for the school run, just for safety, because it's one thing down here, but obviously like on the actual road between our estate and the school, it is a main road, there's lorries, it's a big fast road, so it's just not worth the risk of anything, because it's that take an inch, what's the saying, give him an inch, he'll take a mile. So unless he's physically holding, if he's calm, he'll hold my hand and that's fine. If I let him walk next to me, because obviously other children are quite capable of like run a bit, stop, walk, he's not capable of that. If he starts to go, he will go and he won't stop at any dangers. He won't, he just hasn't got that ability to know what's appropriate. So it's just safer to have him on the reins. But obviously when things like that happen, like last night when he was so out of control, and he will say, he says like it's my brain afterwards in like reflection, he can say my brain goes out of control, I don't want to be naughty, my brain tells me to. So he knows in reflection, but at the time he's completely out of control. So then Ella says at lunchtime they forced him to eat lettuce. So obviously I was a bit like, what? Like, you don't force my child to eat anything. He eats what he wants to eat. If he wants to try new things, that's great, but he's not pressured to. If he feels safe and happy and he sees something that he wants to try, then that's great. But his diet, although it's limited, it's relatively balanced in that, he eats things from every food group, so we don't put pressure on him in those ways. And I think what annoyed me more was it wasn't a random lunch lady, it was the woman that's supposedly a teaching assistant in his class, so therefore surely she should be aware of his needs and that he has sensory issues. You don't force a child with sensory issues to try a food that they're not comfortable trying. Lettuce is quite a I don't eat lettuce. I don't want they shouldn't be forced to eat lettuce. And then the other thing, he'd been told off for something that at lunchtime again, which another child had done. So there were obviously reasons why he was quite hyper. Um, but yeah, he's fairly happy about being back at school. Obviously, he keeps just saying, "But I can't do the writing. Why are they trying to make me do writing when I can't do writing?" And that's obviously something I need to address with school. But other than that, he's relatively happy at school. Ella keeps crying every morning going in, which is horrible. Hopefully it's only for a couple of minutes. It's still not nice. And hopefully we're not going to go into another bloody lockdown, because I don't know, that'll just be horrendous, because we're just getting back into some kind of normality of school and everything else. Although I don't know whether maybe they'd try and keep schools open and shut everything else. But yeah, it's all a bit chaos.